Hello and welcome to Shell Point Today for Thursday, November the 10th. I'm Rich Nation.
And I'm Mary Kay Grimaldi. On today's show, we'll feature a special video from Peter Dys's October 2nd service at the Village Church called Celebrating 30 Years to the Glory of God. We'll hear from those who've known Mr. Dys over the years about how he has made an impact through his work at the church and in our community.
But first, it's time once again for the annual Shell Point Golf Tournament. The difference this year is that it will be held at our all-new clubhouse. Hosted by the Legacy Foundation, this year's proceeds will benefit Shell Point's residents and the greater community through renovation of the Hope Healthcare Hospice Unit at Shell Point. It's located on the 4th floor of the Larson Pavilion. Tee time for the charity event is 7 a.m. for those who've already registered.
This Friday is Veterans Day, and you're invited to join your Shell Point friends and neighbors to extend a heartfelt thank you to those who have served in the military. Join us in the Village Church at 2:15 p.m. as Cub Scout Pack 140 and Hope Healthcare Hospice Honor Guard present the colors, recognize veterans, and help make this a special time of remembrance. The national anthem and God Bless America will both be sung by all attendees, so come out and support our veterans.
We want to take this time today to show you a video prepared by the talented Village Church Media Department. Last month, a special service was held for Peter and Pat Dys entitled Celebrating 30 Years to the Glory of God. This event was a look at the hand of God through the eyes of the Dyses through 30 years of life and ministry. And now we'd like to show you the video that was played at the service so you can hear from others who have worked with and been impacted by the Dyses and their ministry.
We're grateful, Peter and Pat, for this opportunity to tell you publicly how much we appreciate you. You have been and continue to be an extraordinary gift to our community.
Winston Churchill once said, "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak." And courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen. I really appreciate the fact that you are both good listeners. I've seen you give your full attention to those who have a question or just want to tell you something. This has been a great gift that you have given to us residents here at Shell Point.
Someone has said that excellence is not an exception, it is a prevailing attitude. One of the things that has characterized your life and ministry here at Shell Point, Peter and Pat, has been your unswerving desire to develop a retirement community that reflects to those outside our campus a God-honoring standard of excellence. That standard of God-honoring excellence is experienced by us residents and the quality of care that is shown to us every single day. Care that is characterized by dignity, compassion, and the love of Christ. Thank you, Peter and Pat, for helping to create such a wonderful place for us to live.
In 1998, when Shell Point consisted only of the island, my parents moved here, living and enjoying 14+ years as residents. 7 years later, in 2005, I also moved here to be closer to them. When a retirement community has second-generation family members moving into it, that speaks highly of the leadership, and especially of the person at the top of the leadership group. For the past 30 years, that person has been Peter Dys, along with his most important partner, Pat. There was a quarterly meeting which had been particularly difficult. My mom said afterwards that Peter and Pat needed one of the lemon chiffon pies that she and my dad would make for the new residents who moved into their court. So after my dad made the pie, my mom and I walked some comfort food over to the Dys's home in Palm Acres. There were smiles as the pie was graciously received, along with the reason for the delivery. I especially remember Pat's legacy in the Village Church. It was also great fun to see when their growing family of grandchildren came to visit and sat with Peter and Pat, eventually taking up almost an entire row. In closing, I'd like to share a quote from Elizabeth Elliot. "It is God to whom and with whom we travel, and while He is at the end of our journey, He is also at every stopping place." Peter and Pat, we're so grateful that God allowed you to stop at Shell Point for all these years.
Several years before Irene and I moved here in 1996, we visited Shell Point during the days of Dr. Bernard King. During that time, that visit, we got to see a very handsome young man who was his assistant. When we moved here in 1996, we discovered that that man was Peter Dys, who had become the executive director of Shell Point Village, now Shell Point Retirement Community. Pat and Peter, your kind and gentle and open spirit has meant a lot to all of us. You have done a superb job in developing this place into what surely must be, at least in our estimation, the finest retirement community, not just here in the U.S., but in all of the world. Your family has also been of great interest to us. As the two daughters and son left your home to establish their own homes, and now you have 12 wonderful grandchildren, it's a delight to see them come to visit, and we know that you're extremely proud of them. You know, Peter, if you should decide to run for President of the United States, even at this late date, I think that all of us would cheerfully and gladly vote for you. We would vote early, we would vote often, and we're praying for much blessing on you, both of you, as you begin your retirement quite soon. May it be a great time in the years ahead. God bless you.
I was a member of a brass quartet that was scheduled to perform at the Christmas program that was being put on by the church. The time came to go out on the stage, and the trombone player was leading us. And as he led us out, he suddenly fell, having tripped over some of the wires and cords on the floor. This brought everything to a halt, and suddenly an individual jumped up out of the audience, ran to the platform, and rushed to help the trombone player. It turned out that this individual was Peter Dys. Peter always had as his slogan that the residents of Shell Point were the most important thing.
We were privileged to know Peter and Pat from the early days of our coming to Shell Point. So one thing that really stands out in my mind, how very much love there is in that family, not only for Peter and Pat, but also for their children. And it continues as they have grandchildren. And I'm proud to say that we have been blessed to come to Shell Point and experience the joy of knowing them and their family. And we do pray that the Lord will continue to use them as He has in the past. It's a joy to know Pete and Pat.
Thank you, Pat, for your sweet spirit and faithful witness to us at the Village Church. I appreciated your music abilities in playing the organ and in the beautiful songs you have written. To Peter, I am glad for this opportunity to thank you. When I arrived here, there was only the island community, but it has enlarged to several communities and 2 more assisted living buildings. The vision and the values of Shell Point remain strong, due greatly to your leadership. I especially appreciate your leadership when I was court rep during Hurricane Charlie. You were a great example of servant leader by helping and keeping us informed during the storm. You also showed your concern when I fell in the courtyard on my way to dinner with the board. I went to the dinner against the nurse's advice, and right after the meal, you came over to check how I was and to make sure I had a way home. My sons and I would like to thank you again for your kind words and the prayer that you offered at my husband's memorial service. Thank you, Peter, for your part in making my life here at Shell Point a wonderful experience. Come and join us here. It's a great place to live.
Peter, I first saw your name in a letter that I received. My first husband, Bill, and I lived in the middle of Borneo, the country of Indonesia, and the airmail letter came from my dad saying that he had met a man named Peter Dys, and he was very hopeful that Peter might be able to replace him. It wasn't until we came home in 1991 because my husband Bill had just been diagnosed with lymphoma, and we needed to come to the States for treatment. And my father over the phone said, Peter Dys has found a place for you that has just been vacated. If you can pay the rent, you can stay there. And it was in that year that we lived in Palm Acres that I had a wonderful time with you, Pat. So as we got to know you both as Pat and Pete, our friends, our neighbors, and I want to thank you, Pete and Pat, for being friends, for being caring people, and also for doing such a wonderful job of leading our community. I know that you will have many great years ahead of you. I thank God for you both and for all that you have meant to me and to the greater Shell Point community and to my father and mother in those long ago days. I know God will continue to use you. Thank you, Peter and Pat.
Pat and Peter met many years ago when Pat was just 18 at her home church. Her father was the pastor of that church. And since then, their relationship has grown. Now, Pat is a very gifted lady. We don't see her too often. She's quiet, but she's a wonderful decorator, an artist. She writes music, hymns, which we have sung in our church. And she's also been a leader in the church in teaching the children in the years past. But more than that, she is a wonderful mom to 3 children. About 10 years ago, we had a very special party, what we call a Charlie party. All the residents of Shell Point were evacuated into the 2nd floor of the garage. And as we all piled in there in our special little places, we awaited for the coming storm, Charlie. And who should join us but Peter Dys and some of the other executives. They were there to be with us, to take care of us. And this too was well planned. Shell Point, it has grown because of Peter. It has developed because of Peter's leadership, and we shall miss him. He's a very special man. Thank you.
Peter, I appreciate your integrity and all that you have done for Shell Point in your years here, sometimes going beyond the call of duty. I remember one night a storm blew in from the river and lifted some of Periwinkle's roof, which happened to be right next to my apartment. Almost before I knew what was going on, you and your son Jeremy were there working to pick up pieces of the roof and survey the damage. Also, I greatly appreciate your ability to stand up for the right and remain calm. And you, Pat, are a gifted and fantastic lady. You gave much to the youth who had the opportunity to call this their home church. You even wrote your own CLS lessons, which I'm told were great. We have seen some of your writing with the words of the songs you have written and we have sung. I wish both of you a wonderful retirement, and that your retirement years will be as happy as you have helped some of ours to be.
Pete and Pat Dys are Elaine and my highly respected friends. Our relationship with them has been almost exclusively one-sided. They might not say so, but I've been the recipient of much wisdom and blessing from their hands. In our community, there are a sizable number of God-fearing and God-serving people who enrich us all because of their love and compassion and integrity. But as we have grown, our Shell Point community was discovered by others who have come to join us It creates a truly amazing and dynamic community. Much of this is due to two things: Peter's strong insistence on having and retaining a strong, independently funded local church on the campus, and the other is his insistence that Shell Point continue to provide a broad range of residential options which make the community available not only to the more affluent, but to those whose goal in life was investing in people's spiritual as well as other needs. Had it not been for Peter Dys, this could have been lost. Now allow me to say just a word to Pete and Pat directly. Pete, you are a proven leader, a formidable thinker, a respected overseer, a foresighted planner, and a force for good and for the kingdom of God, and you're my trusted friend. You have listened intently, advised wisely, spoken truth to me on many occasions. I treasure your friendship. I look on with respect and awe at the family you and Pat have reared to the glory of God. I also find joy in knowing that we could be absent from each other for months or years, and when we got back together, we pick up as though we were never apart. Thank you, Pete and Pat. Now go find another mountain to conquer.
Hey, Peter and Pat, do you remember in 1986 when Jerry and I bought a house in Palm Acres? As we walked around the area, we discovered Shell Point and the village church. Since we were in our 40s, we became part of the youth group with you and Dave and Julianne Nesselrode, the new doctor. Over the years, we made a lot of memories together. We watched the building of Sundial and Harbor Court, King's Crown, and the Pavilion. The dream of the Woodlands began to be a reality. Then Eagles Preserve and the estuary, now the clubhouse. Looking back over the past 30 years, you done good. Somehow we grew up, and now you're retiring. Where did the years go? Thank you for your Christian commitment. It is the foundation for everything that happens here. I wish that you both enjoy your retirement. You earned it. Enjoy time with each other and with your lovely family. I'd like to leave you with a verse of scripture. This is what the Lord says. May He give you the desire of your hearts and make all your plans succeed. Psalm 20, verse 4. God bless you both.
And now it's time to cover all of today's happenings, Academy news, menus, and Village Church connections.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Happenings segment of Shell Point TV. I'm Dora Robbins, and I'm here to tell you about all the activities today at Shell Point. We're going to start at 7:15 with Health Connections Bend, Breathe, and Balance, and that's at the Health Club on the island. At 8 o'clock we have men's golf at Shell Point Golf Club. We also have at 8 o'clock pickleball at the game courts, and round-robin tennis at 8 o'clock at the tennis courts. We have shuffleboard at the shuffleboard courts at 9:15. At 9:30 we have current events, and that's in the game room at the Woodlands. We also have at 9:30 ladies match play, that's at the tennis courts at the Woodlands. And the Paddlers Club, they're going to meet at the kayak storage on the island at 9:30. And at 9:45 we have introduction to beginning line dancing, that's in the Health Club on the island. And the Suzy Q is going to Mantanzas on the Bay at 10 o'clock. Sign up is required. At 10:15 we have basic line dancing at the Health Club. And President Peter Dys retirement celebration is at 11:30 at the Village Church. Sign up is required. At 12:45 we have Mahjong, and that's at the Library Lounge. And at 1:15 we have Astronomy Interest Group, that's in the Osprey Room on the island. We also have Samba at 1:15, and that's at the Resident Activity Center. And at 1:45, we have King's Crown Fun and Fitness at the King's Crown Community Room. We have Finding Joy in the Manatee Room at 1:45. And at 2 o'clock, we have Stamp Ministry in the Stamp Room on the island. At 2:45, we have a Health Connection, Ballet Fit, and that's at the Health Club. At 3 o'clock, the Springs Bible Study, and that's at the Springs Private Dining Room. At 3:45, we have a Health Connection Yoga Fit, and that's in the Health Club. At 4 o'clock, the seamstress will be here with her weekly service, and that's in the Offspring Room on the island. At 4:30, we have Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in the Sable Room at the Woodlands. Also at 4:30, it's President Peter Dys retirement celebration at the Village Church. Sign up is required for that. And 6:30, it's Pinochle at the Library Lounge. And at 7 o'clock, the last event for the day is Trailblazers Bible Study, and that's in the Game Room at the Woodlands. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Terry Kolath with your Academy information for Thursday, November 10th. At 7:45, court pickup begins on the island for Academy on the Go number 5 for those who have signed up. It's Enter the World of Frank Lloyd Wright. At 9:45, Intro to Android Smartphones and Tablets continues in the Teaching Center on the island. At 10:15, the new Apple Watch will begin in the Manatee Room on the island for those who sign up. And at 1:15, Facebook Basics on the iPad will begin in the Teaching Center on the island, and sign up is required.
Menus for Thursday. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter is chicken Milanese with herb farfalle and asparagus. For dinner, there's the Crystal Carving Board for $14.95. The soup of the day is potato leek. In the Island Cafe, the sandwich special is a shrimp po' boy with coleslaw for $7.95. Dinner specials in the Palm Grill are ribeye with chimichurri for $19.95 or veal scallopini for $16.95. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
And that will bring this Thursday edition of Shell Point Today for November 10th to a close. Join us again tomorrow when we will learn about Resident Jane Hoden, who served in the U.S. Air Force and is making a difference in veterans' lives today through Shell Point's Knitters Anonymous. Until then, I'm Rich Nation.
And I'm Mary Kay Grimaldi. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.